I am honored to welcome you. Cassandra Love Lambert is a trauma-trained somatic transformational coach with certifications in clinical EFT, brain spotting, and somatic attachment therapy. And Cassandra, you help your clients transform pain into resilience and rediscover inner strength. And
Mhm.
so we are thrilled to have you guiding us today and sharing your insights on how we can reclaim our confidence after trauma. So warm
Yeah.
welcome and thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this
Cool.
conversation. It's my favorite. I give it like every so often on ShareWell. It's so good. It's so needed.
I
It's so
love it. Well, in true ShareWell fashion, Cassandra, let's start by getting personal. Can
okay.
you share what initially led you to pursue a career path focused on trauma healing?
Yeah, well, it was like I was pulled by the universe just because of how traumatic my life was. I was born to a single mom. She left my dad because he was an alcoholic. I was sexually abused from age 5 to 8. I also got put into foster care at one point because my mom was with another abusive man. So, one thing I observed in childhood was my mom was in and out of these abusive relationships with men, on top of me being abused. And then also abandonment stuff, right? Getting thrown at 2 years old into a foster home. I don't have like clear memories of it, just my body remembers it, which is a big part about trauma, right? It stays in your body. And I was in and out of a lot of abusive relationships in my 20s. And then I had my daughter at 30. And I had actually done a lot of healing work. So I thought in my 20s, like I was doing all the Reiki, energy work, crystals, shamans, medicine, blah, 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 blah. And what I found out when I was pregnant was that all the things I thought I had done to heal didn't do anything, because it was like after having her, I went through postpartum and everything just came flooding to the surface and it was really overwhelming. A trauma capsule opened and it was really disorienting and scary. And that's actually what put me on a different trajectory. One of the first things I did was rekindle or face like a higher power. And that was very pivotal for me because I was very angry at, like, if there was a higher power, why did it let me go through so many really dark, awful things? And it was very awkward. And as I took steps towards, wanting to connect with whatever that was, um, it guided me towards a school that really helped me meditate and ground myself and protect my energy because I was really sensitive. And that also then led me to the somatic work. So clinical EFT was the first one. And I felt really silly doing it because you're tapping on your face and these points, and it's like, what is this? And then when I noticed it actually making me feel better, I was like, oh, like I felt so convicted. Like I have to help other people with this thing because I had tried so many things that didn't really help deeply. And this was really changing my life. And so I became a practitioner and started helping others.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that, Cassandra. And
Mhm.
I'm curious, when you started doing the work personally, what were some of the changes you saw in your life? We love to get to the why, right? Like why trauma healing is so important. Like what impact did it have on you?
Well, being a single mom is hard. It's really what superheroes are made out of. But like, what I noticed is like my daughter's tantrums would send me into like PTSD moments of panic. And so one of the things I noticed was like the more that I did the somatic work, the more I was actually able to hold more space for her because I was able to have more space for me. And so I was less reactive or triggered by her tantrums. So that was one of the things. And that made me more emotionally available for her.
Mm, yeah, that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And
Mhm.
trauma is defined in many ways, but as an expert in this field, how would you describe trauma, Cassandra?
Yeah, it's like those things that you go through that you can't process that just cause a lot of pain and they get stuck. And it's like there's a part of you just stuck reliving that nightmare over and over and over again. And even if you're not consciously thinking of that moment, your body's constantly feeling that moment. And so anything that's even slightly similar in the present will, it can activate that in your body on top of the present moment. And so it's like being stuck in a nightmare that you can't get out of.
Mm, yeah. And we talk a lot on ShareWell about varying degrees of trauma. Yeah, what are your thoughts about, varying degrees? We know all trauma is important to heal through, but any insights on that?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's difficult, right? So everybody has some kind of trauma, right? Like and it's relative. So what's like super extreme to one person might not even phase someone else, but what's extreme to that person might not phase the other person, right? So everybody's different. So you're like a snowflake. It's very unique. And everybody has some. I would say if like the bigger T, the bigger traumas really impact like your relationships. They might cause you to have complex PTSD, which is what I have, which makes like attachment in relationships hard because they're very scary because there's always like this fear of abandonment because you didn't have like that secure attachment in childhood. And then there's like lesser, traumas, like maybe you didn't have like a supportive parent like who encouraged you, right? And so maybe you're always trying to seek that external validation from others, but like it impacts you because it also becomes part of your belief systems, and your belief systems also can impact like you trying to get a job or make more money or have a family. So trauma just impact like whatever degree of trauma you have can impact every area of your life. And
Mhm.
I mean, you don't even have to look at it in the lens of trauma, really, like because if you want to create something in your life, right, a goal, and for some reason you feel stuck in the same place and you just can't get there, there's something underneath the hood in your subconscious stopping you from that. You know what I mean? And it could be connected to a specific event you went through or memory or memories, or it could also be generationally passed down to you. But whatever that is, it's great to get curious and do a little bit of the inner work to discover what that is.
Mm. Yeah, well said, Cassandra. Thank you. And then for those new to trauma-informed practices, can you explain kind of what they are and maybe walk us through a couple examples?
Mhm. So, well, some of them obviously you need to work with like a practitioner, but one of the ones that I really love that you can do on your own at home is clinical EFT tapping. And what that looks like is tapping. So you take your two fingers, and one of the points is the top of your head, the front of your eyebrows, the side of your eyes. And these are also acupressure points under your eyes. And now also if tapping, because some people are sensory sensitive, if tapping is too much for you, you can rub the points, or you can just touch and breathe on the points, right? Your chin, your right under your collarbone, there's like this soft spot. I like to hit it like this, but some people like to hit it like this. And then under your arm. And just
Mm,
going through these points, right, and setting like a timer and breathing will help uh relax your nervous system. And there's obviously you can get more in depth with the tapping, but I really love tapping because it's a gentle modality that you can use for
mm,
yourself without a practitioner and with a practitioner.
got it. Yeah, and Cassandra, you do, it's called emotional freedom technique. That's the long name, right? If someone wants to look it up.
Mhm.
Okay, and then you do that guided,
Mhm.
but you said you can also do it self-guided. Do you have any resources for someone who wants to start doing it self-guided?
Yeah, if you Google like Peta Stapleton, so it's Peta Stapleton. She has a lot of really great videos. So does Naomi Jan Zen. Um, and then also there's an OG. Hold on, let me look him up. I'm going blank on his name for some reason. There's this OG person that is also really good to follow for videos. Brad Yates. The
Brad Yates.
Yeah, Brad Yates. He's very
Okay.
OG, but he has a lot of follow along videos on YouTube, which are really great, especially because one of the things when you're learning tapping, it can feel awkward. Like, I don't know what to say. So doing a follow along video makes it less like awkward.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, thanks, Cassandra. We're all about sharing resources at ShareWell. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. Um, and I know, Cassandra, a lot of your work directly with clients focuses on moving them from survival mode into a place of thriving.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's really easy to get trapped in that survival mode without even realizing it.
Yeah.
And so, in your experience, how can someone recognize the signs that they're operating from a survival pattern and that they should start doing some more of this work?
Mhm. Yeah. When I saw your question about this, I was like, ooh, this is a really good question. One of the quickest ways to know, like, if you're in survival mode is to just slow down. Are you
Mm.
even able to relax? Or do you have to constantly keep busy? Do you have to constantly be doing? Do you have to constantly distract yourself? Like, are you able to just sit and be in silence or and notice what comes up for you? Like, oh wow, I actually have a lot of anxiety. Or oh wow, like I'm actually really sad. That's why I'm keeping myself so busy. So just slowing down, doing nothing and just closing your eyes and tuning into yourself can let you know like how you're operating. Like, are you filling every moment in your calendar with events or work? Like, are you allowing yourself even to have downtime? Because that's a coping strategy, right? Or are you constantly saying yes to people when you don't want to say yes to people? It's another thing, right? Constantly people pleasing. How are you feeling in your nervous system? Do you have a lot of anxiety, right? How high is your day-to-day anxiety? There's a lot of very high functioning, high anxiety people out there, and they don't even realize that there's another way that they don't have to be living day to day like that. They think it's the normal, right?
Mm, yep. Overriding the system is a norm. I have been there,
Mhm.
which
Me too.
led to a massive burnout.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The
yeah.
burnout is another sign, right? Like
Mhm.
if somebody finds themselves going through that or like a panic attack or a breakdown, your body will give you signs too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Cassandra, let's move over into kind of some solutions. So, I know you talked about tapping as a solution for trauma healing and release. Any other go-to tools or techniques that you use with your clients?
Yeah, I like to teach them a meditation where it's very specific so they ground uh and then they learn to protect their energy field and kind of move out all the other people's stuff. Like, you ever go around people and then you're like not feeling so great, almost like their feelings or energy just like got stuck on you like glue. So like through through this meditation, I help people like clear that out so they can actually be with their own essence and really get to know who they are at an energetic level and also connect to the universe, a higher power, I know everybody has different beliefs, so like they can pull down some of that healing energy from a higher power and just really ground and be in their own energy. And so meditation is a huge part of it, right? Grounding is another one. I bring up breath work, and I also like to give a little bit of caution. Sometimes breath work can tune you into emotions that are really big or trauma. And so you might want to switch to EFT at that moment, especially if you don't have someone there guiding you so you don't get stuck in that moment. Um, I've found that sometimes people with a lot of trauma, breath work might not be the best option. It could be actually traumatizing, especially if they're alone. So that's why I tend to teach people the EFT first. And then body movement. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm going to be a bodybuilder, but moving your body, acknowledging you have a body. So stretching, walking, yoga. Yoga is really great, right? Because it helps move things through. And then doing something that nurtures your soul. And that's different for everyone. So some people it is being in nature. Some people it's like playing with their pets. And
Mhm.
the daily practice, and
Mhm.
the daily practice is super important. And
Mhm.
the daily practice is super important because regardless if you learn EFT and you're practicing EFT in your sessions with a practitioner or you're practicing it here and there, when it really comes down to it, in a moment of distress, your thinking brain goes offline. So unless it's become a habit, you're not going to be able to grab that tool in the moment. But if you've been doing it daily as part of your ritual, as part of like brushing your teeth or your hygiene, it goes into a different part of the brain. And so you'll have more access to it when it really matters. So practicing something like EFT and meditation when you're not super activated will help you for those moments when you are activated. And so, yeah, the daily practice is super important.
Thanks for that, Cassandra. Yeah, and then outside of daily routines, meditation, EFT, you talk also a lot about like self-soothing.
Mhm.
Is there any self-soothing practices, other ones that you'd recommend when someone's in like a triggered state?
Yeah. One of the hardest states to move out of is actually freeze. Because you're just so scared. And like, at least like with fight or flight, like you're moving, you're moving away or like you're moving towards because you're angry. But with freeze, that's actually the hardest one. And so for that one, yeah, you would want to like maybe focus on your breath, focus on feeling like if you're laying on the floor, focus on feeling the sensation of the floor supporting you. Um, Tuning into your body, noticing where you do feel relaxed and really focusing your attention there. Um, Also like sensory, right? Some like a lot of people tend to be sensitive. And let's just say you're sensitive visually or like auditorily. So what you could do is focus on a different sense, like focus on tasting the spit in your mouth because that can create a buffer between you and whatever's activating you, or like smelling the air, right? Other things too are like essential oils, like picking one that really like helps you like tune into like maybe a memory that's good or just like makes you feel good. And everybody's different, right? So you have to find the scent for you. Chewing gum is good, keeping your mouth busy, right? If especially if you know you're going somewhere or going to be around someone that's triggering, you can like have these kind of things prepped. Really strong mints is another thing you can have with you places because then you're focusing on that taste, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then soft things. So like you have like a soft scarf that you fidget with. Fidget toys are also really great. You could be fidgeting with that in your pocket. But these are other ways to just support you through the day, like especially in those like tiny moments of anxiety. You could be playing with your like fidget toy in your pocket, and sniffing your wrist at the same time. Sometimes you need to like layer them up like a sandwich. You need multiple. Right.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, some of those I haven't heard before, Cassandra. I really love that. Like the mints, the gum, is someone who like suffers with anxiety too. I do use the fidget toys, but the mints and the gum, I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, yeah, the strong mints, right? Because it's just anything. So, like if you're very visual or whatever it is that you're seeing is the thing that's triggering you, or if it's like a sound, like anything to get you to focus on a different sense, right? That might
Hmm.
not be as strong or triggering.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I know that you're really big on helping people to find their confidence
Mhm.
after trauma because trauma really does shake you, right? And it's hard to step back into that power and resilience for many. And so yeah, how do you go about doing that? What are some steps that our audience can take today or tomorrow to start on that path of reclaiming their confidence?
Yeah, it's actually the freebie I put in there for you to give to them. But it's like the three keys to regain your confidence and power. And what it revolves around is one, the daily practice, right? Like I said, you want to make sure you're doing something like meditation. You want to make sure you're doing like EFT tapping movement and then something to nurture your soul just daily. So that's part of it. The next part is learning and practicing tons of like self-regulating tools. And in this resource, I have a bunch of tools you can play with. One of the things I do is give them my clients like what I call the self-soothing game. So I put all these tools on paper and like I have them cut it up and put it in a magical pouch and carry the magical pouch around with them. And so in that moment of like, oh, I'm feeling the anxiety coming on, or oh, this doesn't feel good, or fear, or whatever, they have their magical pouch, they dig in their magical pouch and they pull out and do whatever that thing is to just help them start to practice using different things and make it more like a game, right? Gamify it a little bit. And then the final piece of it really is your boundaries, right? And looking at boundaries a little differently, noticing your body. So we all, and everybody's different. We all have these windows of capacity of what we can actually tolerate. And it's not from a logical perspective, and it has nothing to do with, oh, just because everybody else is okay with this, right? You have to really listen to your body. If something or someone is taking you so far out of your capacity that you are shutting down, your brain is shutting down, like you're in trauma response, you need to put a boundary there. And also, that might not be a safe person for you because if you're continually in that type of environment, you're not going to heal. You're just going to be constantly treading water. And so you have to safeguard these areas and create your safe playpen with your boundaries. And everybody's different. Like, and you're allowed to have whatever boundary you need. And sometimes you need them to be more rigid. And then sometimes you don't need them to be rigid. And the thing about them is they're always evolving. So you can always evaluate, and move them and change them. And the thing about boundaries too is you're allowed to have your boundaries, obviously, and other people like maybe one of your boundaries they can't honor, right? So then
Mm.
it's still your choice, and you have to remember that. Can I actually tolerate this? And that might actually be your answer of like, this isn't aligned. We're not a fit, right? So you stop trying to fit squares and circle holes and vice versa, like honoring, like, oh, this isn't a match. And that can help not getting into those relationships with the emotionally unsafe people and stop trying to make things work that just don't work. You know what I mean? Because the more that you actually honor your body, which is actually your best friend, and it's letting you know like, hey, this doesn't feel good, the more that you honor that, that actually directly impacts your self-esteem and confidence. The more that you ignore that, the lower your self-esteem and confidence goes. um and yeah, your body is your best friend. So if you're over there trying to fix yourself, Like, oh, if I would just not be so scared of this, or oh, if I just that wouldn't bother me, then they would not yell at me or they wouldn't be mad at me. Like, no. If you're not feeling safe about something, you're allowed to have that feeling. And if somebody's getting angry at you or raging at you or being mean and blaming you for it because of your feelings, that's not a safe person. And so boundary.
Mm. Yeah, that's really powerful, Cassandra. I'm curious, many relationships, it's a bit easier to put some boundaries, right? Maybe it's with acquaintances, maybe it's with a
Mhm.
coworker. But
Yep.
then there's one, say, maybe with a family
Family.
member.
Yeah,
Or
those are the ones.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I'm curious, what guidance you would give for someone who maybe is trying to set boundaries, but it's just really the relationship makes it so difficult to, or maybe they're living with the person, or maybe
Mhm.
yeah, do
Mhm.
you have any guidance
Oh,
with
I
that?
know. Yeah, I know firsthand about this. Yeah. I had this challenge with my mom. Especially becoming a single mom, it was like I was back in her web because as a single mom starting over from scratch, I was back at her house. So it was like reliving my teenage years all over again. And it was so hard because it's her house, her rules. Da, 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 da. Like I had no power there. So I had to really find my internal strength here. So I had to constantly be meditating, resetting my state space, doing my daily practice. I had to go for walks, like anything to just get out away from her was helpful. Take my daughter on dates, we went to the park, we would go eat, like just getting out of the environment as much as I could. I had to focus on my goals really hard. Now if you don't live with the person, it's a little easier, right? Uh, we always feel obligated when it's family for some reason because of these group agreements. But like just tune in, like, is it aligned for me to even go over there and spend time with this person? Or notice the signs. When is the sign like, oh, it's time to go, and end being around them? You don't have to just stay around these people for infinite amount of time. You have to remember you have choice. And so you get to leave. You get to take care of yourself.
Mm, I love
Disengage.
that.
Yeah, you get to disengage and go take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's an important reminder. We all have choice. And
Hmm.
empowering ourselves to make that choice. And also speaking of Cassandra, thank you so much for bringing your magic. I love how you make doing the work playful and with your makeup and your angel
Yeah.
wings. And it's just always, I love how you add levity to any deep talk and are just a wealth of information and knowledge. So thank you so much for inspiring us.